It is now 7:05, and the Community Choice Review Commission is now called to order. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, let's start with Chair Martinez,
Here.
Vice Chair Flores,
Here.
Commissioner Cantu,
Present.
Commissioner Garcia,
Here.
Commissioner Hegstrom,
Here.
Commissioner Jackson,
Here.
and Commissioner Commissioner Lawson. Excuse me for that.
All right. Not usually last in that, but.
Off. 80%. Okay, now moving on to the statement of conflict of interest.
The city attorney is not aware of any conflict of interest this evening.
Perfect. Now moving on to agenda review.
I have a suggestion that we rearrange the order of new business A and B, bringing B first.
I agree, so I'll make the motion to move up. New business agenda and be first, so we can get that one over with. After many months.
Second.
I think before we vote on that, let's have public comment on whether we rearrange the agenda.
Any public comment at this time, both online and in person? There's no public comment.
Okay.
Call for the vote, please.
Do you need a roll call or please?
Do we
All in favor?
are we all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Now moving on to the approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Roll call?
Yeah. roll call.
All right, so we have Chair Martinez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Flores,
Where's it abstaining?
He wasn't.
Oh. Commissioner Cantu,
Oh, see, absent.
Commissioner Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Hegstrom,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Lawson.
Yes.
That completes roll call.
Thank you. Now moving on to the report by the chief of police. Is our chief online?
Yes. Amen.
All right, good evening, everybody. Am I heard and seen?
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, good evening, Chair Martinez and the whole commission. Tim Simmons, I'm the Assistant Police Chief and currently right now the Acting Chief. Chief French is out for a period of time. Unsure exactly when she'll come back. She's recovering from a medical procedure. So in the meantime, you guys are stuck with me. So I will start my report with kind of going over our staffing, and then I'll go into ShotSpotter, and then I'll go into our crime report. So staffing situation, as of today, we are authorized 147 sworn personnel. We currently have 122 of those positions filled. This year so far, we have hired 12 new police officers. Which still leaves us with 25 vacancies. Those vacancies are broken down to 4 sergeants and 19 officers. Actually, it's 6 sergeants and 19 officers. My apologies. 25 vacancies. Officers in training, we currently have 8 officers that are currently in our training program. We anticipate assuming everything goes the way it's planned with their progression, they should be able to be released from training by the end of December and maybe the very beginning of January. So that will be welcome relief. And we have 6 trainees currently in the police academy going through the training process at the police academy level. Our professional staff, we are authorized 71 professional staff members. We have 54 of those professional staff members filled. This year so far, we've hired 14 new professional staff members, but we still have 17 vacancies. And let me give you what the breakdown of those positions are that are not filled right now. There's 2 jailer positions not filled, 1 network specialist not filled, 2 records specialist not filled, 1 communications supervisor, 5 dispatchers not filled, 1 assistant property technician, 3 crime scene technicians, 1 parking enforcement officer, and then 3 cadets and 3 crossing guards. So some of those are still in the recruitment process, and some of those are kind of, I don't want to say they're frozen because that's not the right terminology. They're just not part of the recruitment process yet. But we hopefully they will be soon. Some of our community events we just finished, Cops and Goblins for Halloween was a smashing success. We had hundreds of families come through the police department. If you had the opportunity to walk through, it was the first floor of our police department was turned into like a magical scene. I mean, the degree of excellence that all of our personnel engaged in, and we had hundreds and hundreds of families and neighbors come through. Even though it was raining outside, and we thought that was going to impact negatively, it did not. And we ended up serving, I think, over 400 lunches, and people hung out and they danced. We had music in the parking lot. And people stayed there for hours and just enjoyed each other, met new neighbors, met officers, and had a great time. Um, Coming up, not in November, but in the month of December, December 18th, we have our Shop with a Cop. I always like to get that on everybody's radar because you'll see fundraisers going on, and that's also an event that many, many families in our community rely on for the Christmas holiday. And it's also one of our favorite events out of the year. So Shop with a Cop is December 18th. And then 2 days later, December 20th, is our annual Police and Fire Toy Drive and Giveaway, where I think we will be servicing close to 1,000 families this year. I don't have the exact number, but I think it's in that range. So moving on from staffing and our community events, just to touch on some of the crime issues. So if you have handy your ShotSpotter report, I'm going to reference that next. So ShotSpotter has been, we had a good month in October. So 12 reported shots fired. Those were people who called and said they heard shots or they saw something in that regard related to shots fired. But and then we had 29 activations through the ShotSpotter system. Both of those reflect a month-over-month reduction in both calls of shots fired and activations of ShotSpotter. Down 14 for calls from residents and down 12% month over month for the activations. And then if you look at the year to date, that also is trending in the downward direction. 16% for the shots fired calls and 21% for our activations. We like it when obviously both of those are trending in the same direction. That means we're not really missing anything anywhere in that regard. So those were both encouraging. Obviously, we want that to 0, but we're heading in the right direction. Crime incidents. So these are shootings that actually occurred where um, thankfully, in these instances, there's nobody hit. So this particular report, it's a crime incident because property was damaged, a house, a car, or some other property, but no person was injured. So month over month, September to October, we've actually had a significant increase of shooting incidents in the city. We went from 8 to 16, which is 100% increase from one month to the next. We are working with the county task force, the Major Crimes Task Force, and we're working with ONS to try to figure out where the impacted areas of this are and trying to address these acute locations to reduce those shootings so that they don't spiral out of control. Year over year, we're trending in the right direction for our shooting incidents overall, down 39% from this time last year, comparatively speaking. So, yeah, so that's heading in the way that we would like it to see. Crime incidents, there's kind of a mixed bag here on data and news. So Our violent crime overall is trending down month over month. We're at a 33% reduction from September to October, having seen the largest reduction. And I think in my last report to the commission, we had um, a really steep spike in aggravated assaults. There have been a few arrests associated to those individuals that were responsible for quite a few of these assaults. And consequently, this month, we actually see a 33% reduction in those aggravated, our 25% reduction in the aggravated assaults, reflecting in a 33% reduction in our overall violent crime. So that's good. Year over year, year to date, a couple of things we're still keeping an eye on because they're trending on the upward swing, and that's our sexual assaults and our burglaries. So sexual assaults are super volatile cases, and they involve victims that are they're the direct impact of the crime, but with a sexual assault, there's a lot of vicarious victims that aren't necessarily the victim of the assault, but it impacts their families and people in the neighborhood that become fearful about venturing out into certain parts of town. So we have the Family Justice Center working tirelessly actually on this issue right now. We have a 19% year-to-date increase in our sexual assaults. Um, so that's concerning. We've had 107 incidents this year. So that's something we're paying attention to, obviously. And then down into our property crime, I mentioned our burglaries are trending up too. We have 17% burglary increase, and those are primary in our residential burglaries. So I bring that up because people need to feel safe inside of their homes, and they need to feel safe when they leave their home that they'll come back to their home the same condition that it was when they left it. So we have our general crimes unit is working to see if there's a common thread, modus operandi that we can figure out if it's like oftentimes it's a burglary crew that comes in from other cities and they target certain neighborhoods, and it seems like that's the case here. And then a couple of things that are trending on the up, just from the standpoint of year over year that we're paying attention to. I already mentioned our sexual assaults, but so sexual assaults are divided into two different categories, non-forcible and forcible. So forcible usually means that it was a potentially fairly violent situation, and those forcible sexual assaults are up 22% from this time last year. So most of these sexual assaults are ones that we really need to find intervention, and we need to get case closure on these and help the victims with justice and getting them connected to services, which the Family Justice Center has really been coming in clutch in doing that. I mentioned the burglaries already, a couple others. We're seeing a spike in narcotic related crimes and violations. Those are up 11% over the course of the year. And embezzlement through businesses. So a lot of businesses reporting that employees are stealing from them, and that's up 17%. And then the other really concerning one is human trafficking. So we have a 300% increase in human trafficking right now, year over year. It's important when I talk about human trafficking, I'm not talking about prostitution. I'm not talking about Johns. I'm talking about pimps that actually take people across city lines or across state lines, and then they traffic them from one location to the next. Uh, we are seeing that we have four of those, and just having one of those is a big concern and a big issue. We had one last year, but we've had four this year, coming from Las Vegas and coming from Oakland. So those fall into the category of legitimate kidnappings, legitimate human trafficking, where the victims are not operating under their own will. They're operating under duress. They're operating under threat of violence or fear of violence. They don't have control of their own lives, and they're being pushed. So again, that's another thing that we're working with the Contra Costa County Major Crimes Task Force on. as well as our own in-house detectives, 23rd Street merchants, the neighborhood council. It's kind of an all hands on deck Family Justice Center. We're tapping into several resources to try to impact that number. So that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
Commissioner Hudson? Yeah, I have three questions. So there was a body found on the Jean Middle School. Was that a homicide?
So it's at this point, it's considered a suspicious death. We do have video of the incident that does not clearly show that it was a homicide. So but we're investigating it as a suspicious death. There was we're waiting for the autopsy to come back also on that. Strong
Okay.
possibility it could have been an overdose. So I'm not going to really comment too much more on that because it's an active open investigation. But that was a potential issue in that case also that there were narcotics involved.
Okay, and my second question is about dispatchers. You said you have 5 positions that need to be filled, so how many dispatchers are there total, and how is having 5 bodies missing affecting the other dispatchers? Are they still answering phone calls in a timely manner?
Yeah, so I don't have the stats. So that we actually do keep stats on how quickly they answer calls and how quickly they dispatch calls because there's this state emergency communication center standard that they're supposed to meet. Unfortunately, I did not come prepared with those stats. What I can do is get those tomorrow and I can email the commission so you can kind of see what our response times are on the phone and compare those. I'll send you the national average or the national requirement and then compare it to, where we're at. So I can't directly answer that, but I can tell you they are in a forced overtime situation. It is a 24-hour, 7-day week, 365-day operation. So when there's a vacancy like that, that there's somebody that has to fill that shift in that position. So they often do work mandatory overtime to maintain that staffing.
Okay, and my last question was regarding human trafficking, where you said that you have increased the number of people you've apprehended, right? Which
So
I think is
no,
a good.
no. What I suggested with human trafficking is we have an increase in reported human trafficking cases that we're investigating
Oh, okay. Yeah,
from
okay, so
one
that's
into
bad.
from
So we
one
make.
last year four to this year. Yeah.
Okay,
And a lot
that's
of
not.
times these are complex investigations, like so we're having to work with like Las Vegas Metro, for instance, or sheriff's departments, other jurisdictions, because people are being moved across city lines or across state lines. So there's a lot of interagency coordination that has to take place to disrupt these type of networks and to apprehend people that are doing this. So I kind of just wanted to bring that to the surface because it's something that concerns me, and I would imagine it would concern the commission.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any more questions? Commissioner Rossi?
Um, thanks for the report, Chief, and also thank you for going down 23rd Street and handing out candy to the kids on Halloween. That was greatly appreciated by the community. I had a question around all the sexual assaults. I'm assuming there is a I don't know, unit or group of detectives. Is that a properly staffed unit? Is staffing around those investigations adequate?
So the staffing in our special victims unit, which would include sexual assaults, we are appropriately staffed with the detectives. The piece of the arm that we're missing is we used to have an in the field group that their job was to put on special operations to be the ones out in the field conducting surveillance and looking for individuals that detectives were able to identify as suspects and being out there on a proactive way looking for them. So that part of it, we don't even have that unit any longer. So now we are at the behest of either a county task force and what their availability might be, depending upon what other cases are going on in all of Contra Costa County, or tapping into the U.S. Marshal Service. They will often come out and help us, but it just means things sit and pend a little longer, and we're not as quick on being able to get out there and bring some resolution because we're having to rely on some other resources that we did not have to rely on so heavily in years past.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Thank you, Commissioner Cantu here. Usually when, Chief, French comes, she also states how many use of force, complaints that have been. I was wondering if you could share. She also gives us an overview of the IA complaints that are coming in that may not come to this office, but might be coming to your office.
Okay, yeah, and normally I do the use of force also. The use of force review board did not meet in the month of October due to some staffing issues. So we did an audit of, so we have a blue, are you guys familiar with the blue team system? Has that ever been brought up or trained on or anything like that? Or have you ever heard it or heard that technology, that name? Okay, we have a software called Blue Team that tracks, that's what officers use in order to report use of force. And then it's the tracking system that goes to supervisor and then to a manager and then ultimately to a captain. So that even though we're waiting for the use of force review board to meet to analyze the body camera as a group, those things are still being looked at so that there's not, you know, a 30-day lag in something being found, addressed, dealt with, whatever the case might be. So those are, we're still looked at. It's just the use of force review board is the one that gives me the report as to what were the reported uses of force and what were the tools that were used in the use of force and what were some of the circumstances around the use of force. So that's the report I don't have tonight, but in the next one, it will be including both months. But I say that because it's not to say that use of force isn't being properly looked at by supervisors and managers. It is, it's just not, I don't have it in the report form that I normally have in order to be able to report on it properly in a setting like this.
Thank you. One more question I had was on, last, maybe it was 2 months ago, you mentioned mutual aid because of staffing issues and needing to strategize if that was still needed. I was wondering where you're at in that
Yeah,
conversation.
no, great question. Thank you for that. So I am doing everything in my power as a chief to not be in a mutual aid situation. I do not want the city of Richmond being reliant on you know, outside entities and outside agencies. So though that still has a potential, we have really focused on bolstering our recruiting and bolstering our outreach to people so that we can fix our staffing. And I'm optimistic that the staffing can eventually reach numbers that move us away from that even having to be a reality. So I haven't really dived into the whole mutual aid need much more than my last report to you because I'm really focusing on trying to build our ranks back up. So we're not in that situation.
Thank you. No, okay. Let me know. Any more questions from the commissions? Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that.
All right, thank you so much. Oh, we have a public comment here? Okay, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
a couple of public comments. So we'll begin with the public comment that we have here in person. It's gonna be Cordell Hendler. You have 3 minutes to speak and you may begin.
Thank you, Nicole. So good evening, Chair Martinez, Commissioners. I am Cordell Miller, and I'm a member of the Park Plans and Neighborhood Council, so thank you, Chief Simmons, for that support. But I have something else to add to that. So as I mentioned in last month, McDonald Avenue corridor is becoming an issue once again. On a couple of occasions, I have called the police to report people that are hanging out in front of 7-Eleven. So let me give you a little bit of context. So back in 2018, I had witnessed a shooting between that when a young woman got shot right there in front of 7-Eleven. The police, they did a great job at the time, but that business had done nothing for this community. I had seen it myself, and the neighborhood council and I, at the time, we have been working diligently to put that business out of here because they don't never talk to us. Cause we have shopped there for a number of years, and that's becoming an issue, that's one. Then the second thing is, I think back in February, when we had coffee with Cop, I had mentioned it to Captain Lopez that people will continue to hang out near Palace Furniture, and it's becoming an issue once again. People like myself, we don't feel safe going to any business without being intimidated or harassed by individuals who are trying to ask for money. And I do appreciate RPD's efforts, but the issue that have come up once again is, you mentioned about human trafficking. Back in September, the neighborhood council president and I, we were coming back from an event, and we had noticed that there are prostitution, and it's becoming an issue. 23rd Street is not what it used to be, so I'm hoping that they can do something to address these matters. And I know RPD has done CPTED, crime prevention through environmental design, but it's still not enough. I do want businesses to stick around, but if they want to stick around, they need to beautify their properties. So I'll just leave it at that, and I will give the rest of my time to Ben Terrio.
Thank you, Cordell. We have one other public comment. This is gonna be online from Benjamin Thorold. I'm allowing you to speak, so when you have a moment, you may begin.
Thank you. Ben Terrio, President of the Richmond Police Officers Association. Again, as the acting chief noted, we have serious concerns about the staffing. As was discussed, it's a serious problem. We're not able to do follow-up and complete investigations in a timely manner. We have to rely on outside agencies to assist victims that are in this, are unfortunately in our jurisdiction, in our city. And the hiring is just not happening fast enough from the city side. And it's an issue, and it needs to be addressed, and it's not being addressed fast enough. I'm sure that comes as no surprise. It's been talked about many times over the years, but we need a better and robust strategy from the city on completing that. And any assistance that would come from this commission would definitely be welcome. I'm not going to be blown away if many of you do not help in that regard, since that doesn't seem to be what you're concerned about. But that would be a very good, positive way to help the police department and ultimately help the citizens of Richmond. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments at this time online? All right, we have no other public comment at this time on this item.
Thank you. Now moving into public forum.
I was just saying,
Thank
good evening, everybody. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Oh, I called for public forum.
Oh,
Yes.
like, I'm sorry, I missed that. All right, so we have public forum. We do have a public comment. We're gonna begin with Cordell Hendler. You have 3 minutes to speak. You may begin.
Thank you. So good evening again, Chair Martinez, Commissioners. I am Cordell Hammer, and I have some wonderful news to share with you all. So at the last council meeting, we do have new commissioners, so hopefully the person will be joining you all next month. They still gotta do all the forms and all that stuff, so that's the good news. So following that, I did reach out to the youth council, and I have encouraged them to fill this last slot on this commission. So my plan is I will be going back to them later this month, and but I'm trying to get this on the council's agenda for next month, because the youth plays a very important role because they have been impacted by police. So I'm hoping that this last seat on this commission will be fantastic. And then let's see what else. Oh, yes. The good news is that everyone is invited to the Country Cross of Mayor's Conference on December the 4th, which is going to be the day after y'all meeting after. And so it will be hosted by the city of Pinole at their senior center. But you must, I repeat, you must RSVP ahead so they can count how many people will be in attendance. And it will be $70 per person, and that includes food. So there might be some hot chocolate there. Who knows? So but you have to RSVP ahead, and that's pretty much the main things, and so I will turn it over to Ben Terrio.
Thank you, Cordell.
No problem.
We have one other public comment online. Ben, you may speak once you're able to.
Thank you. Ben Terrio, President of the Richmond Police Officers Association. Maybe I'll take the moment to just address some things that I've heard over the of course of discussion. Police, when we do use of force board reviews, they are done and they're not complaints, they're incidents. You know, use of force is considered normal course of business and duty by police officers. It's, you know, unfortunately something that comes with the job. Not everybody wants to go to jail, and not everybody wants to de-escalate situations, you know, willingly. And de-escalation takes, you know, takes two people. If one party is not willing to de-escalate, then de-escalation is unfortunately not going to be successful. So framing matters, and you know, constantly from the you know, the anti-police portion of this CPRC, which you folks know who you are. Your framing is obvious. Your bias continues to, you know, be very reflective of your ideology instead of your actual rational thought, which is unfortunate. And it's a good thing that our potential candidates only happen to actually watch, you know, city council and get turned off by that, because we get a lot of comments like, I would come here, but your city council doesn't seem to be very supportive of your police department. And thankfully, I don't think a lot of them know that you guys exist and would observe the comments and the craziness that goes on here. I mean, case in point, you guys have agenda items about just how to discuss and run a meeting. So I would encourage you guys to help us again with recruiting. How you frame things matters. Not putting things in a biased lens matters. I believe John Alden talked about that in your training, and it matters. So follow what your training and your guidelines are, and actually be good commissioners and help this city instead of, you know, just bringing your ideology and not helping us in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments at this time online? Looks like that completes public comment for public forum.
Thank you. Now moving into old business, starting off with ad hoc committees.
Oh, did you switch those around? Or you think some damage?
Legislative business.
Oh, okay.
So, there is no update in regards to the outreach committee. I don't know if the policy review committee,
There's an update.
so we'll go ahead and move on to public comment for our ad hoc committees.
So I'll let them go ahead.
All right, we have a public comment here in person. Cordell Himmler, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. So, good evening again, Chair Martinez, Commissioners. For the record, I am Cordell Hamlin, and I am here to talk about ad hoc committee. So, as I stated last month, I said, I looked at the Brown Act handbook, and it does specify saying that there should be, as long as it's not a quorum, there could be like 2 people. So, I was waiting to hear some updates regarding the outreach committee and others. I'm like, okay, that's not helping. So, as long as the committees are still existing and provide some updates, that's all that matters, and I'll save my comments for the next item. Thank you.
Thank you, Cordell.
Thank you, Cordell.
Hi.
Ben, President of the Richmond Police Officers Association. My only concern is that make sure that these ad hoc committees, that there is some type of record what's occurring. The Brown Act does have limitations on what is discussed. My concern is that some of these things would not be discussed in accordance with the Brown Act, and that's an issue. So that the city needs to make sure that they take due accordance to that, because folks are watching, and that needs to be accounted for. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments at this time on this item? There's no other public comment at this time.
Thank you. Now moving on to the update on the process of hiring a permanent investigator.
I have a short report on that. I spoke with the city's head of HR, Sharon Taylor, and she suggests that the recruitment is progressing. And we hope to have more information for you for the December meeting. That's what we got.
So that was something, Commissioner Hudson, that was something that happened in closed session, they voted on the recommendation?
I don't know. I'm not privy to what
That's what
happens in
that-
closed sessions,
I
was
what the
happening.
council's closed sessions are.
And then they can't comment on it because it was closed session. So that's why we're not getting more information.
I just instructed that this is what can be shared today. Perhaps what you're saying is accurate, but I am not in the loop on that.
Okay, thank you.
Now moving on to public comment.
Okay, we have first public comments, Cordell Henler. You have 3 minutes to speak when you're ready.
Okay, so good evening again, Chair Martinez, Commissioners, I am for and I have some. I'm glad, I wanted to thank you, boy, for providing that short, update regarding the recruitment, so I'm like. I have complete faith that the Rise Group has done tremendous work so far, but we're hoping that they will be finalized, within the next 30 days or so. And I agree, is like, certain things can't be discussed, like, during their closed session, so I'll just leave it up to the Rise Group and figure out what they have in mind, so as long as they keep getting more updates from this group, that's all that matters, and then you can have the rest of my time.
Thank you, Cordell.
Ben Terry, President of the Richmond Police Officers Association. I think I'm curious on what type of input was provided by this entire body? Did that actually happen, or was it only a select few? I'm curious, when this person's finally selected, to learn about how the process played out, because that all can be reverse engineered. So it'll be interesting to find out how many people actually participated, who participated, et cetera. And if they did pick somebody, well, how come they didn't release that in any type of information in closed session? They still have to report out actions that were taken. So if they did come up with a permanent investigator or hire somebody and they didn't report that out, that's a problem. But it's nothing new. The city of Richmond is not really a good faith follower of the Brown Act. So it wouldn't come as no surprise. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments on this item at this time online? There's no other public comment.
Thank you. Now moving on to receive an update from the interim investigator, and I do see that Ty Lewis is online.
Hi there, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, great. It's nice to see everybody again. I'm filling in for Bill Whalen tonight. He is on another assignment, but we wanted to bring you some updates. We're making some very strong progress in clearing some of the backlog of investigations, some of which go back to 2024. So currently we're investigating 7 different complaints that have been submitted to the commission regarding various allegations of police misconduct, from use of force to bias to other types of complaints. As we've discussed in previous updates to the commission, we've been focusing on the high priority ones, especially those ones that are the most backlogged, that involve serious allegations. As I reported to the commission last time, we have 2 cases that were officer involved shootings from 2025 that have been told in accordance with what's going on at the police department and their investigations with California Department of Justice. So those have been told. So in all, we have about 9 active investigations going on. 2 of those, which are use of force allegations, should be wrapping up in about the next week. So we're hoping that if all goes well and we we finish these reports in a timely manner without any unexpected delays, we'll have some of your very first reports to the commission coming your way for review. That currently is our update for this evening, unless you have specific questions that I might be able to answer for you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commissioners?
Just a quick thank you for that. Appreciate all the work.
Absolutely.
I do just have a quick question. I know you mentioned that we'll be receiving a report pretty soon. If there's no delays, can you give like an estimate date or like when in November or whether it's December?
Yeah, so I can tell you that the two reports that I'm personally working on are pretty long reports. So they're making their way through kind of the review process. The longer they get, the more complicated, and things are easily, you get fatigued going through them, and we want to make sure that they're right for you. So we're working diligently on that. My goal personally is to have these submitted for a second set of eyes to go, hopefully by the end of the week, and then it's going to have to make its way through the rest of the system. And as we are new to this process and working with the city of Richmond, I wish I could give you a better idea. I can tell you that the other 5 investigations that we're working on, we're waiting on responses back from some of the complainants. So that's kind of hard sometimes, especially on these older cases. People move, they change phone numbers, addresses aren't what they used to be. So trying to work with the police department, work with other sources of information to identify and locate those folks, to make sure that their voices are heard throughout this process, is a priority. So that's kind of what the delay is right now. But I can tell you that we are actively investigating and working those cases, which is a sense of relief for us as well, because we're finally starting to chip away at what felt like a big iceberg of a backlog. But I think we're making good progress.
Thank you. Now we're gonna have public comment.
Thank you.
So we have public comment in person. Cordell Hindler, you have 3 minutes to speak when you're ready to begin.
Thank you. So good evening again, Chair Martinez, Commissioners. Feel like I'm on a roll today. So thank you, Todd, for this, providing these updates. So that's all I have to say. Just thank you for providing these updates to the commission in a timely manner. So with that, I will pass it to either Lisa or Ben Terrell.
Thank you, Cordell. Okay, first in line to speak on this item, it's gonna be Lisa Johnson. Once you're available, Lisa, you may begin.
Good evening, Commissioners. I wanted to, given that you have cases before the interim investigator, if you guys can clarify for the public what your process is on getting new commissioners trained before they are allowed to have access to confidential information. So you guys went through 6 hours of training on August 2nd. So many questions surround around that, including, will training be tracked so that the public knows which commissioner has received training, on what dates and what items? When will all 8 hours need to be completed by? Will that be an annual process? What qualifies in place of a ride-along? How will new commissioners be trained again before they have access to these documents, let alone participate in a closed session discussion and vote? When 6 hours of training from August, will those new commissioners be required to view that since it was all recorded on Zoom? And if so, how will that process be monitored? How often does the training need to be repeated again annually? And then lastly, you guys had your documents tracked through Dropbox when you had the previous investigator. And the public is interested to know how those documents are being tracked with the new investigator. Is that Dropbox going to still be utilized? And if so, how access will be monitored? By what commissioners? Is information going to be allowed to be downloaded? Is it going to be allowed to be printed or screenshotted? And if so, are those procedures Have they gone through meet and confer with RPOA and RPMA? Thank you.
Thank you. We have a second speaker on this item. Once you're allowed to speak, then you may begin.
Ben Terrio, president of the Richmond Police Officers Association. But one of the things that the interim investigator slash team of folks forgot to mention is also sometimes people make frivolous complaints and they make fake complaints, baseless allegations. And so then when it comes time to actually put, the rubber to the road, they don't want to follow through on it because they lied. That recently happened to me by either one of you in this body or one of your activist friends who complained about me on a meeting in February. So that's pretty common too. So don't discount that, since some of you seem to be apt at that. That's also another potential outcome, is that people are, full of it. So something to note, something to keep track of as well. And then also, it's important to know what that process is. And is that a transparent process all the way through? And what information does the commission receive? When do they receive it? Things that the other speaker touched on. Those are valid concerns, and how that process played out, because I don't see that online. I don't see that explained anywhere. And those are things that people want to know, especially the folks who it affects, the officers and sergeants who work here, because it affects their job. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments on this item online? There are no other public comments. We may move forward.
Thank you, Sergeant Lewis. We really do appreciate you coming out tonight and giving us an update.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Have a great night.
You as well. Now moving on to, giving an update on the meeting confer process with the Richmond Police Officers Association.
I do have a report on that. So there have been 2 meet and confer meetings so far. The next meeting is set for November 24th. They're working on a 2-meeting per month schedule, although in November there's only 1 due to various holidays, probably Veterans Day, is one of them. The city has responded to information requests, and the city has made information requests of its own. The parties began tackling basically the first half of, or I should say half of the items that the CPRC brought to the city council and that the city council approved for the meet and confer process this year. The negotiator says progress is good. The second half of the items will be in discussions beginning in November or December. They're also wrapping in the 2 older items from last year into the process. Again, progress is being made. And then on December 3rd at our next meeting, the negotiator will meet here with the commission in closed session to give a more detailed update. But I should note that the city council is responsible for directing the negotiator in those negotiations. And that's the report.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Yeah. So at our December meeting, we're gonna get somebody from the lead negotiator.
The lead negotiator on behalf of the city will be here.
Okay, cool. And that'll be like for a similar, like for the same item as.
Exactly, specifically to report on this meet and confer process on all of the items that the council has approved that came out of the CPRC. That process,
Including the previous ones as well, right?
including the previous ones.
Commissioner Garcia.
Yeah, no, I was glad to hear that progress is being made or good progress. I think that was what was said. I had more of a procedural question. So this item was at the request of a commissioner too. I think the comment around track and training probably deserves a sort of ongoing item like this one. So what is the process of getting an item on here? Can I just make that request, or was like for this item was an item put in, or a little, what's called agenda item report put in for it?
I put it in, the city attorney added it.
Oh, okay.
And I think that the chair of the commission has authority over the agenda. She can decide to agendize items. And generally speaking, if the commission as a whole, the majority would like to see something agendized, they can vote to do so and then that would be agendized.
Okay. Yeah, cause I believe that one did get approved, the training one, that the commissioners have to be trained, it was approved by the city council and is not subject to RPOA, whatever union approval.
Correct.
So sorry, it is in effect, isn't it?
Well, we had training. I think it has been passed, absolutely, and we've already been operating under it.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is we probably should be tracking it then, so can we make it an ongoing item?
Chair, I have a point of order.
What was that?
I have a point of order, this is not on the agenda, it's actually a violation of the Brown Act to discuss items that are not on the agenda.
I'm asking for a point of order so that I know what's the process for something similar. I don't understand the process, it's a process question, I'm not discussing anything new.
Well, we just went over the process.
Commissioner Armstrong.
So you can submit an agenda report for the next meeting on that we have discussed that and vote on it?
Okay. Alright, sounds good.
Moving on to public comment.
Is there any public comment on this item online? We have no public comment on this item.
Thank you. Now moving into new business, we'll be introducing the action item on public comment period format for future CPRC meetings.
Yes, and so I'll present the item. The commission has looked at this item, I think numerous times. And so I don't think that it needs a lot of review. I'll just review what sort of the recommended public comment process would be one last time. So the meeting, public comment in the meeting will be organized such that the chief of police report would come before. I just have the piece pulled out, it's page 2 of the agenda item, but it's part, it should be attached there.
It's exhibit 8B.
Eight B.
Yeah.
The 5th page in the packet.
And I'll say the reason we're going over this again is at the, 2 meetings ago. We, failed to take public comment prior to voting on the action. And so at the next meeting, we decided that we would run the meeting under the old rules. And today's meeting also is being run under the old rules, but once we pass this today in appropriate fashion, this will be the way future meetings we can run with respect to public comment. And so the agenda would be organized such that the chief of police's report comes at the top of the meeting before the public comment period. And then we have public forum directly after. And during that public forum, the public could address anything on the agenda. They could address the chief of police's report, and they could also address anything that is not on the agenda that is within the jurisdiction of the commission. And I will reiterate that inclusive public comment period would satisfy the Brown Act for the whole meeting. But the commission had determined that they would appreciate public comment, additional public comment on other items on the agenda, and this was what the commission had suggested. They would not have public comment on old business. They would have public comment on any of the items under the new business section. And that public comment is just a report on the new business section would come after the report. If it's an action item, it would come after the item is introduced. Then we would have public comment, and then we would have voting. Then we would have discussion and voting. And I'll note again that the additional public comments period described regarding old business, I'm sorry, we would. An additional public after the press, we would, forgive me, after old business, we wouldn't have it after each old business item. But we would have a public comment period after all of the old business. And then during the new business, we would have public comment on each item as I previously described. And so those two sections with public comment periods are not required under the Brown Act because we are having the all-inclusive open forum at the top of the meeting. And so that is the agenda item. And what I would like to do is ensure that before we have discussion and vote on this item, we have public comment.
Okay, our first public comment on this item, we have Cordell Hinder here in person. You have 3 minutes to speak, Cordell, and you may begin.
Thank you. So good evening again, Chair Martinez, Commissioner Grove. Let the record reflect that I was the mastermind behind this item because I was one that had told the previous staff person that I feel that I did not get my voice heard in the meeting. And I'm like, and I feel that that was unfair. And so, as I keep bringing this item forward, is like, once again, the public has a right to speak. So I do have to remind people about the Brown Act. It's in the handbook. It states that the people has a right to speak at any type of meeting, whether it's this meeting or any other commission for the city of Richmond. So the Brown Act does specify it is the right, the people's, is the business of the people. So having it like all inclusive public comment portion of it, so I'm kind of hesitant to say yes to the new format, but in years past, the public has always had the right to speak either during public comment or after the chief of police's report. So I'll just leave it at that, and I will give my time to either Ben or Lisa. That's it.
Thank you, Cordell. Next, we have Ben up to speak. And you have 3 minutes.
Hello, Ben Terrio, President of the Richmond Police Officers Association. That's a funny way to describe it, City Attorney Andrews, because it's actually because you got a lot of letters and requests over the past several months to cure these Brown Act violations. They're actually, it's not what we decided. It's you got sent letters officially to fix these Brown Act violations. And again, it's not surprising that folks would try to choose the least transparent way, which probably needs to be looked into as well. Because if you can't just do simple Brown Act procedures, what can you do? I sit on a commission for the civil service in the city of Martinez, where I live. Public comment happens on everything. I find it pretty funny that folks would talk about transparency about anything and yet would try to limit public comment. It's very amusing. Not surprising, but amusing. You should choose the more transparent option, be in compliance with the Brown Act. So we have to stop writing letters every time you screw the bed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Now we'll have Lisa up next for public comment.
Good evening, commissioners. I just want to start by asking you all, how has tonight's meeting run? I think pretty effectively, pretty smoothly, and in a timely manner. So why does it need to change? Nobody can answer that question. This board is all about accountability, transparency, and being there for the community. If you're going to be there for the community, you value input in real time and on every single item. And that is what the Brown Act assures. The city was notified that they were in violation of curing the Brown Act. And they did not cure the Brown Act. I had a conversation with the city attorney this afternoon. She and I may disagree, and I've provided every statute by which you guys have violated the law. Yet she can't provide me a single statute. that defends her position. Not one. Just she disagrees and her interpretation of the Brown Act suffices. That should not be good enough for you. You would not be sufficient with that answer if a police officer said, I pulled you over just because. So why should your city attorney's office be allowed to give that same answer to you, or an incomplete one, or the public? They shouldn't. And you should demand better transparency, and you should demand that the public is allowed to comment on each and every item. And I'm just going to repeat what the Brown Act says. Before or during consideration of each agenda item, the public must be given an opportunity to comment on the item. With respect to any item which is already on the agenda or in connection with any item which the body will consider pursuant to the exceptions contained in section 54954.2b, the public must be given the opportunity to comment before or during the legislative body's consideration of the item. Consideration is important. In this context, it encompasses the entire process of a legislative body's review, discussion, and deliberation of an item, regardless of whether a formal vote is taken. You can't get around that definition. And do you really want to be the only board in Richmond that has changed the public process when you are all about accountability? Thank you.
I'm sorry. No, we're that.
Was that the time, was it the alarm?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's part of the alarm, of the app, but. At this time, is there any other public comments online in regards to this item? That completes public comment.
Thank you. Now, open up the discussions, Commissioner Erickson.
So I have a couple things to say. First, in preparation for my agenda item, which will be coming next, I looked through the commissioner handbook, which has all the different rules and things about how we're supposed to do our meetings. And I think that that Lisa brought up some legitimate concerns about public comment, and I think that we need, before we vote on this, I think we need to confirm that this new format that Floyd is suggesting is in fact in compliance with the Brown Act. But furthermore, I don't understand why this was even brought up in the first place, because it seems to me that we really do have a functional public comment period that has worked for a long time. And unless there's something wrong with that, I don't see the need to change it.
Commissioner Wilson.
I would like to make a motion, if I have a second, I would like to speak in favor of my motion.
I second motion.
I haven't made my motion yet.
I have
My
a
motion is to, ask them to stand again.
I have a question.
Well, I actually have a question.
Whatever you guys.
So, my argument in favor of this motion is that we've actually already discussed this at length and voted on this and passed it. And we are only actually bringing this back on the agenda just to make sure that we're, dotting all the i's and crossing all the t's and doing everything procedurally correctly, so there can't be any question that it was decided properly. But we've actually already discussed this, and in response to Commissioner Hickstrom's request, in my opinion, the legal opinion of the city attorney is all the legal opinion we need. And I don't know why we need to keep us getting second and third and fourth opinions, just because it seems to me because some people disagree with the decision, and it's fine to disagree with the decision, but the decision actually has been made already. I think we should go ahead and vote on it again, but I understand some folks would like to have this opportunity to discuss this motion all over again. But I would ask that we try to keep this section as little redundant as possible.
Since February, I asked a question why we was changing, and I've never got a fair answer to me. Why it's been changing, then what the attorney was saying, I mean, it was, to me, it was a lot of, a lot of just stuff. So. The voting process is kind of one-sided anyway, so. So I don't know why we would be changed, I mean, what's the purpose of changing something? I think we had a good meeting tonight, went well. And what's the real purpose, and that's what I asked from the beginning, I never got an answer. But.
Commissioner Garcia?
So in preparation to Commissioner Hickstrom's item, I also looked at the Brown Act, and I zeroed in, I think that paragraph, was quoted that for members of for every agenda item for regular meetings shall provide an opportunity for members of the public to directly address the legislative body on any item of interest to the public before or during the legislative body's consideration of the item. That is very clear in the statute. I looked at this very thoroughly, and this is the only section that is relevant to this discussion. It's, if anyone wants to look it up, 54954.9A. It's quoted throughout the Brown Act, the statute, I should say. And it refers to that section, I don't understand how speaking 3 items later, you're meeting this condition of before or during the legislative body's consideration of the item. So one question that I had is, whenever there is a Brown Act violation, who gets in trouble? Because per the statute, the DA can investigate. Who ultimately can get that misdemeanor or that civil action?
I believe it's the city attorney.
The city attorney will get that?
That's my understanding.
Commissioner,
I would just like to note that the section you quoted said before or during.
Or during?
Before, meaning at the top of the meeting when you have the all-inclusive public comment period,
Or
during.
or any agenda item of interest to them?
That's what I'm talking about.
Correct. Yeah.
Thanks. I just wanted to say that I think one of the reasons that I second this, and one thing that I hope, Commissioner Jackson, you'll hear, is that there are some times when we're here for extreme, like a very long time. When I came on, we were here till 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And so, and as we're gonna start getting more investigations and closed sessions, we're gonna actually have longer meetings again. And so if there are parents, if there are young people, if there are community members that are extremely busy, but still wanna raise a concern, they wanna raise the police, they wanna ask the question, they want their voices heard. This is exactly how to allow our community and our residents to get their voices heard in an all-inclusive public comment that you don't have to wait for every single agenda item, but actually can speak on it at the beginning, and we would all be able to hear their public comment, and they wouldn't have to wait hours to be able to make a comment on a specific agenda. And I think that has personally happened to me at city councils, where I've been waiting hours to be able to make a public comment, and then they shut down this. And then I'm not able to make that public comment, and then I feel really silenced or my voice is not heard, when I do think for community centeredness, for equity, for our Black and Brown community that may be really busy, they should have the opportunity to comment on all agenda items. And one way to do this is be able to do it in the public forum as an open. So at the top of the meeting, they'll be able to comment on anything. They don't have to wait. And I think I'm really excited to increase public awareness, accountability, and transparency through this.
That didn't convince me.
No
It
problem.
didn't convince me.
No problem.
Because I mean, I've been here quite a while. And I could, the times that we've been here at 11 o'clock. Or whatever, maybe since we had this board, maybe a few times, maybe that might have happened. But, in the past, I've never been at 11 o'clock. Never.
Okay, so yeah, there's a motion on the floor and then we should call for a vote, so. Let me get a roll call for the vote?
Yes, we have Chair Martinez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Flores,
Yes.
Commissioner Cantu,
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia,
No.
Commissioner Hagstrom.
No.
Commissioner Jackson,
No.
Commissioner Lawson.
Yes.
That completes our call.
The motion carries, thank you. Now moving on to agenda item for action item on Commission decorum, I'll hand it off to Commissioner Hester. Oh, wait, I'm so sorry.
We are at the top of that. Public comment?
Yes, public comment.
We
You asked for public comment at the beginning
We did it at the top of the item. We already heard.
Yeah,
it.
sorry, done for that item.
She's introducing hers. We're good.
Okay.
Before we vote, we'll do public comment on mine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But before you begin, I would like to note that this body doesn't have the authority to require that a commissioner resign from the organization or no longer be on the commission. I'm just putting that out there.
There are certain things that are considered an automatic resignation, and we're allowed to create our own rules, but we're not allowed to create a rule that makes them an action that they do considered a resignation. Although there are other things that are considered a resignation.
Well, the city council, the mayor, with everyone's like the city council appoint the body.
Okay,
And so the body doesn't have the authority to, unappoint or force a resignation of one of the members.
okay.
Does the city council or the mayor have the authority to unappoint
I
or
believe so.
remove?
I believe so. I do think that we should have a conversation about your agenda item. And also there is another mechanism that could be used if this commission wants to go down the rabbit hole of it, and it's a bit of a rabbit hole, it's like a censure process. And the commission would need to, create what the process is, and we have some roadmaps. And vote that it would apply, and it would take time. But that is something that the commission could make a decision about moving forward on if you want, or you could have a conversation and potentially, as an organization, be able to internally solve the problem without going down that more involved process.
Okay. So. I think the decorum at some of our recent meetings has just not been acceptable. And I'd like to remind everybody, one, we're all volunteers. We're here because we care. And we all have our own opinions, and yes, you care, I care, we all care. But we have to respect other people's opinions, even if they differ from what we care about, even if we think they're wrong. So you can't, I really think it's inappropriate to have personal attacks, and we gotta all try to make sure not to do that. We talk about the issues, we debate the issues and not make it personal. So. What really bothered me was, maybe we need to talk about how, I think when somebody has been acknowledged by the chair and has a chance to speak, if they say something that's inappropriate or for whatever reason, calling point of order is the appropriate thing to do. And then the chair can make the decision on whether that point of order is correct or not. And tell the person who's talking that they need to, adjust or not as they see fit. But the problem is, if the chair is making that decision and you don't comply with it, which has happened at this meeting the last time, we need to have some way to make sure that people know you have to do what the chair tells you. So I came up with an idea, which I now know the part about that they cannot be ejected from the meeting. Maybe we could just eject them from the meeting. I don't know if you guys want to consider that option. If people are refusing to comply with the chair. I also think that it's important for the chair to be on top of things and call them out if something inappropriate happens. And it's kind of a nasty job. But somebody needs to do it if it's happening. And that includes even members of the public when they're making public comment, if they stray off of what they're supposed to be taught. At open forum, I think they can talk about things as long as it's related to the commission, but sometimes people get off topic on the other items. So I put up a proposal here, but I would like people to say what they think. So I'll move on.
I have a suggestion, which can be like along, doesn't have to be instead of this, or instead of something like this. But I think that it would be helpful is a training of some sort, which and by the way, like, there is nothing wrong with needing training like this. So like, I know some of our, some of the public comments were like, as if the idea that we've discussed this is negative, but I think it's actually positive, and we're actually trying to improve and be more, whatever, business, get more business done in a better, more professional manner. And I've attended trainings like that as my work, because I work in public, being college and so forth, things science and public meetings and stuff like that. And as part of one of the trainings that we did, there was a portion on, how to conduct meetings and how, how motions work and things like that. I think it's really helpful to know, like, how do points of order even work, right? Because like, I'm the only one who's kind of yelling it out. I could be using this process, so like it would just things like that, how do because part of how a meeting is run is like the rules of how the meeting is run, so they and there's Robert's rules of order, there's other types of rules of order, but the basic idea is like, you follow the rules and the point of order means you think, hey, we're not following the rules, right? But we should know, we should at least have some sort of basic understanding of what those rules are, all of us. And it would help, us as individual members, it would help the chair, it would help, everybody. So I think, and then since we have to have all this training anyway, I think if we had a half an hour or 1 hour or even longer training on how to conduct meetings under, actually, I'm not even sure we use Robert's rules of order.
Rosenberg's.
Was that?
We use
Rosenberg's. Right, so how exactly the Rosenberg's rules of order work, and like, just, so it is really helpful information, and it's like so much you can't get it all in, but if you give a slightly larger foundation for what you have, it's very helpful.
So I think everybody is supposed to have read the commissioner handbook, which has the rules of order, it has other things, so if you haven't read it, you should read it, because it really does talk about how we are representative of the community, and how we act is, we need to be respectful of each other and ourselves, and I think they have some hands.
No, I'm just gonna say that, we just, we need to respect each other. It's the main thing, in every way. What we say, how we act, because you don't have to say a lot to be disrespectful to someone. I mean, you could see it. You could just, if you have discernment, you know, you can see, you know, when things are just, it just don't feel. I mean, you know, I can, you know, when things are not, you know, I mean, it can just be the way you look, or the way you motion, the way you do what you do. You know, make a person feel uncomfortable. You know, but they shouldn't say nothing, but we need to respect each other.
Commissioner Lucio?
Yeah, no, I think, I agree with the concern, and it, it's. It's the way I see it actually, and I think Carol, or Commissioner Hedstrom alluded to it, is just respecting each other as echoed, by Commissioner, what's your last name, Andre? Jackson, sorry. That it's a question of respect and not really of the rules. Although we need to follow the rules, we need to be in compliance with Rosenberg's rules of order. But there's times where we have an item and folks have a lot of questions and or comments. And it gets, at least for me, frustrating that I don't get the courtesy that I've given someone else to answer their questions and make their comments. And I could also, you know, start applying the rules, but I don't want to be disrespectful. I think, you know, we're here to represent our community and do our best. And I'm not here to argue with anyone. I just, you know, I come from a community that's been over policed and blah, blah, you know, the story of many people in Richmond. And I'm not here to argue with people. And so I think we all need to be respectful, and I'm glad we're having this conversation. And I do, you know, request that the chair, you know, be mindful of individuals who overuse the rules, because that also is disrespectful. If others were given the ability to make their points and get all their questions answered. Yeah.
So what are we gonna do about it? Do we wanna go with what Evan suggested, or do we wanna go with the recommendation that Carol, provided for us and Commissioner Hexton provided with us? And just remove the eject, or change the wording in regards to the ejection?
I think at this moment, we should check public comment if we're transitioning to discussion, figuring out how we wanna move forward. We should have public.
We'll move into public comment.
And again, I think that we, I mean, we have our vote, we have our meeting, and that's what the meeting's all about. I mean, we don't have to agree, or we can disagree, but when we leave here, it shouldn't be any attitudes. When we leave out of these meetings, it shouldn't be any type of controversies and, different attitudes and stuff.
We'll go ahead and proceed with public comment. We have public comment here in person. Cordell Himmler, you have 3 minutes to speak. You may begin.
Thank you, Nicole. So, good evening again, Chair Martinez, Commissioners. For the record, I am Cordell Himmler, and I am very concerned. First, I do want to thank Commissioner Hexton for bringing this item forward. So, as I was watching the last meeting of the CPRC, and there were a lot of tension in that room, and I was like, do I hear a thing coming in here with the air and all that heated moment? And so I said to myself, I do have the chance to come in here because I'm a member of the public, and you want people to observe these meetings, you gotta do it more in a friendly, more positive atmosphere, because people are gonna get the wrong impression. They're gonna say, is the CPRC arguing? And I said, this is unprofessional. So I do agree, but it's like, we need to work together. So I think Chair Martinez as the coach. So she is trying to coach this team to be a winning team. And if you want it to be a winning team, you have to comply with what Coach Martinez is saying. So we have to get along with everyone. And Commissioner Watson brought it up. I'm on a committee for BPAC, and we follow the same procedures at our meetings, and we listen to everybody's opinions. I respect their opinions, and so if if they can contribute to our, let me rewind it. If they wanna contribute, that's great. And so we have to listen to everybody, so we all have to get along, so. And I usually put in my statement as well with a Bible verse, and so in the book of Luke, you have to like turn the other cheek. If someone strikes you on the cheek, just turn it. So we all have to do our part to make sure that we want the community to participate in these proceedings, so. Whatever outcome it is, so whether it's what Commissioner Hexum brought forward or Commissioner Lawson, it depends on how you look at it. So with that, I will, oh, somebody had their hand up online, and I'm like, give to that person, so that's it.
Thank you, Cordell. Are there any other public comments on this item online? Okay, there are no hands raised for public comment on this item at this time, so we will move forward.
Commissioner Henson?
So maybe what we could do tonight is agree to, for everybody to read the Commissioner's Handbook on your own, but also to agree that we will follow the chair's direction. So if somebody feels like a person is out of line, you can say point of order, and then it's up to the chair to decide what needs to be done. And if we all agree to do that, then I don't think that we need to have any more specific votes or rules tonight. But I don't know what other people feel about that idea.
Are there any comments or questions?
Are you asking for a vote or just like sort of a general?
Well, I think, yes, maybe if we, I don't.
Did you have any recommendation?
I wanna make a recommendation that everybody agree to follow the chair's direction and. But I don't know, do we need to have consequences if they don't? Or will we just all agree verbally that we will do it and then not have to worry about it because we trust our fellow commissioners and ourselves?
Well, one thing that I have been thinking about is establishing bylaws and somehow like for the commission and looping this into the bylaws. The only thing is I don't know how long that will probably take, cause I know we like to discuss things and sometimes we don't get to the bottom of the discussion and we bring it back up. On the next one, but I am interested in creating bylaws for such things, so I don't know if you guys are open for that, to that idea or not.
I'm certainly open to it, and I like the idea of doing bylaws sort of one issue at a time, and just starting the bylaws maybe tonight with rules of conduct at the meeting. And then, you know, each, meetings in the future, we can address other issues and create more bylaws.
The only thing I would say is that because we don't wanna be reactive, we wanna be preventative, so maybe we start off with, yes, we can start with the code of conduct, but also add in other topics in there, so that we have at least like the groundwork to work off of. So, like. Yeah, Commissioner Brando?
I would be interested in researching other bylaws from other commissions after NACO. I think there's a lot of good examples. And that was one thing that I think we put in our next staff actually for the next agenda item of establishing bylaws. So would be willing to take that on.
I would just like to note that the Richmond's Boards, Commissions and Committees Handbook has a section on relationships within bodies. And this one has 6 tips on ways people should act. And you could consider working those into the bylaw.
Sounds good.
So I guess what we're doing then is everybody's agreeing that we will follow what the chair says. And we will then put it forward to another meeting, the creation of some bylaws. Yes. Okay, Are we all happy with that?
I do like the idea though of having training, like, for the, like, in addition to that, I understand that it's just that having training on how Rosenberg's rules of order work, how, you know, how the conduct of meetings and things like that, like the best practices for conduct of meetings.
I think that would actually be beneficial as well, because we do have a new commissioner, that will be joining us soon, and from my understanding, the training is you just read the handbook that's given to you and you watch an hour-long video. But that's pretty much it, and so it could be very distracting if it's not in the deep training, like 30, so like I hope it's at least 30-minute training just on that. So it doesn't take so much time in our meeting, so.
Speaking of training, did anybody else besides me get a email from the city that you have to do,
Yes,
all these trainings?
yes.
I mean, I did 2 of them, but it's like, why am I learning about workplace violence when I don't have a job at the city? Did you look into that? Oh, yeah, why they?
I haven't even heard that that is happening. I don't know nothing about it.
I sent it to you, you asked me to send you that link. Oh, send you the email.
I don't remember that at all. Forgive me.
Did you get one of those emails? Yes, everybody did?
I asked my city councilman.
And what did they say?
It's in response to something that is not public, but it's something that's necessary for all commissioners to do now.
Oh,
And maybe I-
that's a lot of hours. I mean, I did 2 of them already, and that, I spent a lot of time doing that.
How many hours is it?
I would guess the first one was maybe an hour.
I think,
Yeah.
Like 45 or no.
Yeah, 45 minutes, maybe an hour or something. I mean, you know, it's a significant amount. And they ask you questions.
So you really gotta pay.
Yeah.
You do, at least you, yeah, sort of. I mean, I did pass all the questions, but, okay, so. What are we doing then? Are we agreeing that we'll put this off till further, we'll get training and then we'll, have a bylaws committee? So ad hoc to put together an agenda item with some bylaws? You wanna do that, Chris?
Do you want to try to formulate the recommendation?
Yeah, the recommendation, just one clarifying question, city attorney, would the city attorney's office be doing the training, or would they be getting an outside consultant?
You know, I feel like that's training that the city attorney's office is like well equipped to do. So I would suggest that we go that route to save money.
Okay, so I would like to summarize and make a recommendation that we have the city attorney's office provide a 30-minute Rosenberg's Rules of Order training in December. And that 30 minutes be counted towards our 8 hours of training.
It's not.
And
Yes, it is, this is report.
We're amending the recommendation.
And that I.
To put something on the agenda?
Point of order, can I make the recommendation?
Yes, continue.
And then I will come back in a future meeting with bylaw recommendations to discuss with the CPRC. That would also include rules of conduct.
Second that.
Can we get a roll call vote?
Roll call, we have Chair Martinez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Flores,
Yes.
Commissioner Cantu,
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia,
No.
Commissioner Hagstrom.
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yeah, yes.
Commissioner Lawson.
Yes.
That completes the roll call.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, now we'll be moving on to a report from myself and Commissioner Cantu regarding our trip to the Naval Walkers that took place in October 26th through the 30th in Minneapolis.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I'm gonna stand. I am a teacher and I don't represent city. And this was a lot of hours. I'm putting into this. Okay, so Commissioner Cantu and Chair Martinez, thank the city for paying for our trip to. I think the other side, can I go back on to?
Let me figure out, is this a PowerPoint? Do you know where the control is to make
Oh,
it?
Oh, you might be able to just go back on the pad here?
No.
Oh, no.
Oh, work on this side? There you go.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. So NACO is the National Association of Civilian Oversight for Law Enforcement. And this year it was a 5-year thing of reckoning and resilience, 5 years post George Floyd era. The NACO conference really rooted ourselves, and I think the reason why a lot of us are coming to this work to ensure accountability, to build trust, to build transparency. NACO also offered tours to all of the attendees to go to the place that George Floyd was actually killed. So we saw not only that his name is here, that the city paid for the renaming. They also created a Say Their Name cemetery for everybody that has been killed by police in the last 5 years. And then this is mural, and down here it just says, I can breathe now. There was a community organization that gave the tour that was there since 2020. I wanted to ground us just in this because it was something that the oversight NACO really wanted to promote and had a lot of sessions of bringing in current commissioners in Minneapolis. The mayor spoke, a lot of community organizations spoke on how they began oversight in Minneapolis. Next slide.
So just a quick overview, it was a 5-day conference that brought together hundreds of oversight professionals, whether they were community members in general, whether they're board members or commissioners, law enforcement officers, policymakers, and scholars from across the country and around the world to dive deeper into civilian oversight. So we had a lot of people from came overseas as well. So it was pretty cool. Oh, yeah, and this is a photo of us with the Department of Police Accountability from Berkeley, and that's their service dog / therapy animal as well. Lucky.
He has his own business card.
Oh, yeah.
Have you guys got yours?
So for day 1 on Sunday, that session has now been included into like recent NACO conferences where it's solely dedicated to whatever position you're currently holding. So for us, we attended the boards and commissions. There was also one for like those who have executive leadership positions, and there is also an investigator sessions. So we all split up into different sections, and these are the 3 sessions that we were able to attend on Sunday.
We're gonna go to the.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one is why effective boards matter, and I think, really use this right now. One of them, of course, is around public trust, policy impact, and organizational legitimacy. Really talking about ethical decision-making, parliamentary competence, which I also think has to do with Rosenberg's rules of orders and making sure that the procedures are there. And then productive group dynamics, y'all. We are out here because we're struggling with that. So also one thing that I think this is really important is that every conversation contributes to the public's perception of fairness and accountability. So how we show up does actually, from a national standpoint, influence public's perception. Next slide.
So then we went into like sessions of how to approach conflict productively. Again, something that we have been struggling as well. So like the types of conflicts, whether it's a task conflict or relationship conflict, then the strategy and how do we address the issues early. So they talked a lot about like prevention rather than reaction, and then separating the person from the problem, establishing those ground rules or facilitators if needed to return just to what we're like our common goal is as well. And then one of the quotes that stuck out to us was like, conflict isn't a failure, it's feedback about where clarity or trust is missing. And I think that's very key for us to like keep in mind. And then just adding a non-conflict resolution focus on like common ground and core issues. No personal attacks. Yeah, so just being collaborative, compromising, and avoidant. Okay, so then, the second session that we went into, really focused on San Leandro's, oversight model. So they have a hybrid model with the independent police auditor, and then they have a board as well. So as you, I don't know if you guys are aware, but the city of San Leandro has approximately about 90,000 residents, where we have, I think it's 1,010, no, yeah, 100 residents, so around the same amount of people. And they were able to develop a cost-effective, legally viable and operational critical hybrid model of those two components. So this is the chair of Bob Bailey, who really spoke on how they were able to create the board and the model itself. He really uplifted Stephen Taylor, who was killed by an officer as well. And he said that he worked with his grandmother to build this entire model and that they were asking for her feedback constantly. So yeah, it just really honed in into the collaboration between the community organizers with Stephen Taylor, then the city staff, and then elected officials playing a huge role as well. Next slide.
And then we went into our third session, which was roundtables. And so in conversation, we talked about struggles, challenges, uplifted highlights of ours shared. We had people from Nashville, Chicago, Madison, Wisconsin, and BART, and San Diego, since California was also represented, all in our roundtable. And it was really great just talking about the different budgets. Some of them have stipends.
500 a month,
Or their month.
but that's 20 hours a week.
Bylaws was a common theme
Yeah.
that we're missing for our commission. So, next slide.
Wait,
Oh,
just
yeah, go
before we
ahead.
move on, I was just gonna say, these were selected randomly, like where, like as soon as you woke up in the morning and you just went to go sit at the table, that was who you were grouped with. So we didn't get to choose these folks, so it was really cool to just to see what other agencies were like dealing with as well. And really good conversations. So then for day 2 on Monday, we attended 4 sessions. It was a really long day, so.
Oh, yeah, so we'll go over all of these in the next slide. But this is just kind of a preview of local stakeholders, civilian oversight in Minneapolis, de-escalation and use of force.
So this was a very powerful session, the work of police reform and accountability, so talking about the local stakeholders' perspectives. So this one really explored like the police reform and accountability efforts. Through Valerie Castillo, which is Philando's mother.
Yes, Philando Castillo's mother was on the panel.
So it really just brought in the contributions of like those who like how they view civilian oversight, but how they can also be collaborative. But she's really stressed the importance of like really making sure we're calling out what are the issues within civilian oversight so that we can start coming to the community and the community can come to us to start addressing those issues. And I think that's something that's not really highly talked about in certain agencies, because as we were like in the roundtables or just simply connecting with others, that's something that they kept bringing up, that the community voices were missing in a lot of these bodies and that they were having trouble just getting to them.
And I think we've talked about, like, people don't know that we exist.
Yeah.
They don't know how to file a complaint, they don't know where to access information.
And what was interesting too was that before this session took place, the mayor had actually already just like. I think he came to like give an entire speech and like was talking about the civilian oversight board that existed and whatnot. And then she came on and was like, the mayor just came and gave you guys an entire spiel, but she was like, I don't know anything that's going on. She was, I have been impacted by within my family with my son, but yet I am like left out of the loop of many things. So it was really interesting to hear her call them out in regards to that.
Thank you. Yes, so this one was the second one. It talked about the evolution of policing and how they're moving towards a community policing model. And that really both policing practices and oversight need to be addressed for effective boards. We can't do the oversight, which is reactive. We have to do the proactive policy building to prevent these complaints from even happening. And so there was many different iterations of many oversight mechanisms, and they all have very discipline power, authority, staff, budgets, etc. But they really offered a lot about Minneapolis, and there is a huge divide between the community, between oversight, between electeds, etc. That they're still grappling with 5 years later. Next slide.
Yeah, so the third session that we were able to attend was a de-escalation and custody setting. So I know right now the city has been working to get our ROC to start up and running. I know the CAB advisory board I think they just had their first meeting. So de-escalation is a policy within the RPD's manual. So these were some of the key things that they were highlighting. So just the use of communication skills being centered in empathy, compassion. The difference between de-escalation and intimidation, the expectations for de-escalation, and like the 4 stages, which is like effective communication, the empathy, building the rapport, and then finding those opportunities to de-escalate.
Then, this is a really big one, so we're not gonna go through all of these, but this was super powerful because NACOL released its report on the 23 core elements of a use of force policy. There is not one police department or manual that actually has each of these. We don't have a model to go after, and so they're really encouraging oversight bodies to use these principles and to move into and become that model. They actually said Berkeley was the closest to that model.
Berkeley and San Diego.
And San Diego, thank you. And so, and those are in California, so that's great. So we're not gonna go through all of these, there's 23. But we'll be sending this deck to everybody so that y'all will all see it. I think it can be posted online, possibly after. Can the deck be posted? A part of the agenda?
I think it can, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we'll go into the next slide and we'll see.
We'll keep going.
Yeah, we'll keep on going through all of
Yeah.
these. Yeah. Use of force it covered, training on the use of force it covered, etc. Really important 23 principles. But we'll go into day 3. And also 4 sessions, the last session was a little different because it was a forum.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a panel discussion and a Q&A, but forum and a working group where people were meeting and chatting. Next slide.
So for the first session that we attended was the leveraging the institutions and organizations to lead reform in federal oversight. So it's just really looking into how like state level actors and independent oversight organizations are stepping into these roles once it's dominated by the federal government. So like taking lead in advancing police and justice reforms. So we have Arlington, Virginia, we had the chief of Minneapolis, and then we also had another officer, but I can't remember his name. But this was a really interesting panel because they were talking about the cross collaboration, but at the same time, not always seeing eye to eye, but still trying to work towards the goal. So which is something that I think it is important for us as well.
And finding a mutual points of agreement to move forward. Next. This is session 2. Oh no, this is still continuing, sorry. Still continuing in the absence of federal oversight. We wanted to just highlight that yes, we need oversight professionals, that we need community informed systems, we need cross-sector collaborations, and they really highlighted that and emphasized homegrown, locally driven, structurally resistant oversight boards. Because if our federal administration is not going to be setting the standard, we at the local level can and should be doing that, which is what they encouraged.
Now for the second one was the second session that we attended was maximizing the impact, so effective outreach strategies for under-resourced agencies. So this talked about a whole bunch of different strategies that we can be doing. They talked about the various stakeholders that they reached out to in particular when doing their outreach and wanting to get the word out, because that was one thing that they were always struggling with, was just getting the community to know that they existed. So I'm talking about like, they went into schools, they went into the city council meetings, to every like board meeting, they went to county. They also talked to local businesses. They were like boots on the ground doing outreach every single time. And to the point where before, like, they would have to ask like, hey, can we be in attendance of this event? And now they're the ones always getting like emails, their emails are being blown up saying like, hey, by the way, we have this event coming up, we would love to have you guys here. So it just really talking about like the diverse needs and expectations for each agency, but also like how to make it work with limited staff and budgets. Something that was very interesting was that we found out that a lot of these agencies, they actually have someone that's just truly dedicated to doing outreach for them. So it's not the
Staff member or commissioner?
No, a
No,
staff.
a staff
Community.
So somebody that's paid to do that?
Yeah, yeah. So, which is very different from what we're used to, because it's our, as commissioners, we go out into the community, which I think is still important, but I think having a staff member to dedicate a lot of time to do that is also very beneficial.
And then there was a third session on politics of police oversight. And really that police oversight is not just about policies, it's not just about procedures, it is deeply political. And they brought in Prince George's County to talk about how they engage the chief, community-based organization, union leaders, their elected officials in collaborative discussions to then strengthen their board. And they're still building coalitions and still creating oversight structures that balance all of the different stakeholders, but they are in communication, they're helping hold each other accountable, and they have direction. And so even from NACO, this whole presentation was on pushing reform, even in the face of resistance from law enforcement agencies, that it's still critical. And they even talked about how there should be pathways for oversight professionals. Just like there are pathways for police officers, there should be pathways for oversight professionals to be able to do the balancing of power.
Excuse me, by pathways, you mean like training?
Yeah, like academies, you know how you would have like academy for the police? There's no academy, you actually have.
I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And there are some other boards that are trying to create academies to train residents to then help do oversight.
There's one in was it Maryland or Chicago? I can't remember. But somewhere on the East Coast or Midwest, they're actually trying to come up with an academy just for youth who are interested in civilian oversight. So that was pretty interesting to hear as well. I'm hoping to like get it, not, well, invited, but also like be able to provide input, so see if there's something that could be like done across the nation, but also here on the West Coast as well. So the fourth session, like Commissioner Gunter mentioned, was different. This was more of a conversation / working group. So this was centered around data. So we really just discussed the practical tactics and the standards of common data definitions like taxonomy. So one thing that I came to find out was that there's a lot of different areas for improvement for our commission, like for example, being CJIS compliant with the way that we track our complaints. So a lot of these folks, they actually pay for a portal through Civil. I wasn't able to connect with Civil right there and then, but I am interested to learn more about how they work, because a lot of these agencies do use them. And it's more, yes, it is more expensive, but it is more for privacy and security purposes that we should consider pursuing, not now, but like at a later point, able to.
Day 4, there's only day 5, so we're gonna go through this one really quickly. We'll talk, and we'll focus a little bit on body worn cameras. And go to the next slide. Yeah.
Yeah, so Campaign Zero, really pushed for a campaign on regarding the broken promise of police body worn cameras and the current state of public access. So this was in a surge of the Ferguson uprising, and like we were promised for the greater transparency and accountability of police. So this is just like an overview timeline of like where we were at with body worn cameras back then and where we are at now. A good thing to know is that 80% of the larger police departments and 50% of the law enforcement agencies overall have adopted body worn cameras. I actually learned that ANIAC just recently, as of 4 years ago, like instated to have required police officers to have body worn cameras. So like, there's still some cities out there that don't have them. And some of them are near home, so that is a concern that I did have. So here's just some of the here's just some of the data, so based on their campaign that they were working on. Out of 160 incidents, they were able to confirm that body worn cameras were used and footage was available for 129 of those, so about 80%. And the majority of the footage, they did say was edited, so that was 73.6. Oh, sorry.
You mean available to the public?
That was edited and available to the public.
Released publicly?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, one thing that they did note was that departments are capable of releasing the footage quickly, but many do fail to do so. And that the overall average release time was about 70 days, while the median release was 28. And then, for example, here in New York City, the Attorney General had released footage as quickly as 35 days from an incident, and in as long as 194 days, so it just varies from different jurisdictions. One thing that they did mention is that they just focus on the larger cities in different states, not so much in like the smaller cities. So, for the state of California, they had focused on Los Angeles. And then they also pointed out that many departments failed to close the FOIA's request. So for the completion status, this one, they had 41% that was awaiting for the response, 14% had denied the request. And then many departments, again, they vary significantly in their time to close that request. Many took weeks, others took months to do so.
And some of them require payment.
Yeah, which
You have to pay to get a Public Records Act.
I think the highest cost that we saw on the presentation was like $5,000.
Because of each page and hours
Yeah.
of labor that they goes into doing it. It does cost money to prepare it.
But then they also talked about like,
That's a lot.
that civilian oversight, like, our community shouldn't have to go through this route. Civilian oversight agencies should be the ones to be able to, like, whatever information they're able to upload, as long as it's compliant with state policy, they should be able to do so to avoid all of this, because a lot of our community members don't know about FOIA requests.
Great. So, another one was turning challenges into opportunities. And they focused on two different areas, Philadelphia and Rochester. And this was really talking about trust and mistrust and how to like rebuild that requires empathy and compassion and a strong desire to amplify voices in Black and brown communities and other different communities. And they also hosted in Rochester, it's called How Many More? A call for change, action, and accountability. And that was after the tragic death of Robert Brooks, who died while he was in custody. And so they really just talked about how each commission can and should hold these like town halls, community forums, reach out to the community, have panels with different people on them. Between like, they convened impacted families, youth, artists, union representatives, faith leaders, and even electeds to have those town halls.
And then the third session that we were able to attend was the officer created jeopardy and how it resulted to deadly force incidents. So I don't know if you guys can tell who's in the photo, but John Alden was actually one of the folks who presented on this topic. So this session, they were able to show us like 3 different videos of instances where an officer, they like put their lives at risk thinking that they were gonna stop whoever was driving the vehicle or whatever they were doing. And it's essentially creating that officer jeopardy. So it's just reducing the likelihood of deadly force. Like there was an incident, one that they covered that was based here in Contra Costa County. I can send the videos as well so you guys can look at them. Cause it clearly shows, like there was one where there was an officer who was trying to stop a member of the public who was driving. I think they were driving like less than 20 miles per hour. and the officer thought it was still a smart idea to get in there. And even though he was requesting the member of the public to stop the vehicle, he wasn't doing so, but he still went ahead and got into the vehicle and just shot him many times. And then there was another one where the officer had pulled another individual over in the freeway and thought it was a smart idea to like put his body within the door frame and then shoot the person inside the vehicle while the car was still under running. So like putting his own life at risk and others' life at risk. So they were going really into detail about how this would play out.
And there's professors that are writing papers
Yeah, on
on
this.
officer created jeopardy, and they'll be forthcoming, I think, in January.
And then they're sitting to the right of John was actually I don't know, I can't remember, he was a previous chief or a current chief as well. So it ranged from a professor, from someone who's currently a director of Violero Sonoma, so John Alden and the chief. Awesome.
Yeah, I was wondering, this is a really interesting concept. Is this something that, to your knowledge, is covered by any police manuals, policy procedures?
No, this is a new, they're finding more and more evidence and writing academic papers on this. Because they've been doing research, I think this for the last 10 years on this, and so it'll be forthcoming. And so it was a kind of hot topic, moving forward.
Might be interesting to ask Assistant Chief Simmons about that, or Richmond Police Department.
Yeah.
If they have any, if they're aware of it, and if they do any kind of training to officers about it.
Yeah, most definitely.
And this was Thursday.
Yeah.
Session. Yes, so I was invited by the Director of Office of Police Accountability in Berkeley to talk about some of the different reforms and recommendations that most recently happened here. And so the other, and I'll share some resources, but we really focused on how we use researching other oversight models, researching ordinances, researching different community, like the complaint systems. And we're able to come up with the different recommendations, like the case summaries. All of that kind of helped the people that were Vice Chair Flores and Chair Martinez and myself and others kind of move into these different transforming oversight and our commission. And on the next slide, we'll show there's a tool called Evidence-Based Policing Matrix that has hundreds of resources from articles, journals, that you can actually go in and find information on evidence-based policing practices before you make a decision on moving a policy forward. It's a tool to be able to ground yourself in evidence-based research. There were other resources that we also wanted to uplift. I love PBS and I didn't know that they have an entire frontline series on policing and public safety. And they did a recent episode on documenting police use of force. Also, the police scorecard. This is a national organization and we were able to look up Richmond and see our scorecard in comparison to everybody nationally.
So what was our score?
I think it was, I'll look it up, but I would have to click it.
We can.
It was not 100%. So,
It was not, or
it was not, no, it was not. I think it was in the 59 or 60%.
Yeah, high 50s, low 60s.
Yeah,
how did that compare with other ones that you looked at?
there were others that were like in 70s or 80% of like scorecards. And it used like,
And those are good, the higher the better?
yeah,
Okay.
But like also another thing to note, like each state does have different state regulations in regards to the police. Like for example, like California, and I can't remember what other states they have the officers
Bill of Rights.
Bill of Rights.
Right.
And there's
Still
other.
that changes.
Yeah, that changes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
and I think there's.
Oh, yeah, so, there is a newly elected, board, NACO board for next year, so Florence Finkel, this is her right here. She is now the president. George Perez Velez, he will be serving as a vice president, and then Johanna, she will be serving as a member at large. Jason Wetcher, he's actually I don't know, oh no, he used to be an investigator with Berkeley. So he got appointed to be a member at large, and then Bart, which is right here, he is also elected as a member, so.
And there's John.
Yeah, and then here's some possible next steps that we were thinking, that if the policy review ad hoc committee is interested into looking into the use of force policy, since we did go into, well, we added into the presentation the 23 core principles of it. And if they wanna look more into the escalation policy, definitely want to research other civilian oversight agencies' bylaws to help shape ours. Continue the conversations with other agencies to be up to date with what's going on in the respective jurisdictions. We had the opportunity to connect more with, like,
What was the last one?
We had the opportunity to connect more with like folks from Antioch, from Modesto, from Berkeley, from San Diego, from like all over, which was really nice. And other opportunities also include like more CPRC training by subject matter experts, the NACO regional training, the cross-agency collaboration, resource sharing, and just joining NACO subcommittees. Because we are part of NACO, we are members, so that we are able to attend and sit on these subcommittees. They have a good amount of them, so if anyone's interested, we can also attach the list of the subcommittees. That's it, yeah.
Thank you. Nice.
I'd like to commend, that was such an excellent presentation. As one of the people who went to the most recent NACO, I'm ashamed with the lack of what I brought back compared to what you all. It was such incredibly professional and comprehensive, and it was just overall incredible.
Who took the photos? Did you photo that?
You
guys took the photos?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, really impressive.
Yeah.
We were also working in between sessions, so let me tell you that.
We were doing that first like in the session.
So I remember, I was like, everything I'm writing down,
Yeah.
all these pages, that's a lot.
It is a lot, and then like 4 sessions like in a day is, it's perfect.
Good job. Did you guys go to the same section?
Well, we would split up. There was only
I
like
went
3,
to look.
there was only 3% of them, we ended up being in the same one. But
Okay.
yeah, but we ended up splitting up like many of them. Yeah, 'cause there are many of them really good sessions.
Yeah, you need to kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, so you get to get the photo.
Well, there was also people who had to get the first NACO you were presenting, those are one of the panels. That's incredible. That is like incredible. What in addition we have to our commission?
Are there, public
Yes.
comment before discussion, sorry.
Yeah.
We have 2 public comments. Our first public comment is Cordell Handler here in person. You have 3 minutes to speak. Cordell, you may begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Nicole. So, good evening, Chair Martinez, Commissioner. So, I'll try to keep it short because of strengths, but I thought the presentation was, when I looked at the whole slide deck, I was like, wow, this was very impressive. And I'm like, and it's like, you got the whole concept of it. And I'm like, one of the slides that kind of stood out to me was like stipends. And I said, and I was looking at it, I'm like, this is something that this commission should have, because I've seen other commissions that get stipends, and I'm thinking like, this would be something that the commission should consider, like, I'm placing it on a future agenda, for making sure that you all get paid, because doing this type of work requires money, because I looked at other cities or jurisdictions of what their commissions are, and they get paid, and so I'm thinking like, this is something to consider, because as was stated in the previous item regarding like, being here until like 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I said, they need some money, because I mean, this job does not come easy, I say, so I'm thinking that like, long term, like, if you can write it down on the next agenda, like, consider like, stipends, like per meeting, things like that, so I'm just asking that's a request to be brought forward, so I thought the presentation was precise, and thank you, Chair Martinez and Commissioner Cantu for being on the panel. I was like, whoa, that's impressive. So with that, then Carrier, it's all yours.
Thank you, Cordell. Hi, Ben, you have 3 minutes to speak on this item when you're ready.
Thank you, Ben Terrio, President of the Richmond Police Officers Association. It's interesting. I'm surprised that, Nichols taking a dive into some of these kind of, questionable groups or theories. I wonder how much is, related to what they're actually talking about, but, maybe I'll attend the conference myself and find out. But I can definitely touch base on a couple of these things and where their, legitimacy is at. For one, the argument about officer created jeopardy is not going to go anywhere. It violates established legal standards about Graham versus Connor, objectionable reasonableness in the moment of force was used. And in general, just ignores the reality of policing because cops are required to make decisions that are, limited. They have often have conflicting information. You have to manage threats that, pop up, they're emerging or escalating, and protecting victims and bystanders without, the benefit of hindsight doesn't exist. This doctrine assumes a level of control and foresight that just doesn't exist in real world environments. We're not afforded the luxury of perfect information, unlimited time to strategize things. That's movie stuff, and that's not the reality. So I this doctrine of an officer created jeopardy. It's been kicked around in the activist community for a long time. It's not new. It just pops its head up every so often, because that is what it is. The police scorecard, it's not objective. It's another thing that presents itself as data driven, but it's built on activist assumptions and advocacy goals, not neutral research or anything that's actual based on evaluation standards. Bad data in, bad data out. It's pretty typical. Ideological scoring and developed without any type of policing expertise, and it's weaponized for politics. That's what it's for. It doesn't really measure performance. It's not what it's there for. It's there for an activist purpose. And then like Campaign Zero, I'm surprised that that's still around. It's popped its head up years ago, and again, it's the same thing. Approach begins with a political outcome and then tries to justify it with data. Police are the root problem, all that nonsense. And then backfills the data to support the narrative. And it's the opposite of any type of real, responsible policy analysis. These are activist campaign works. That's what they are. The proposals are written by people who've never done anything with law enforcement, public safety organizations, etc., banning traffic stops, sending unarmed responders to violent crises, the like. That's all what these types of campaigns do. Again, it's a lot of these things are old hat, new hat, but again, don't accomplish the purpose. And to have those things highlighted is an issue. And then
And that was your complete 3 minutes to speak on this item.
Sounds like Hunger Games.
Moving on to the next item, which is a report from Commissioner.
I'd like to say something.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I produce music, right? And when I produce music, I listen for if I can hear anything that's out of order or wrong or doesn't sound or doesn't feel right, right? So with that presentation, that was a great production. Great. A person don't have to like it, but there's nothing that anyone could say about it that was out of place or out of order or it didn't feel right. So I congratulate.
Yeah. Moving forward, I do hope whoever goes to NACO next year, also comes back and reports back to the commission.
It'll probably be like that. I know if I go, it won't. Our studio. Ours is on it.
Next item, report from commissioners, I don't know if there's any. Okay,
I have a little something. Yes. I had been planning to have John Alden present a training to the commission on December 3rd on the subject of bias. And so, and you had just appointed me to also do a training on Rosenberg's rules on the December 3rd meeting, so I'm just highlighting that for you. Maybe we do them both, but we should talk about that.
oh, sounds good. Anything else? Yeah. Okay. It is 9:20 and the Neighbors Review Commission is now called to its. It's now adjourned. Ready to go sleep. Yeah.